Hello friends, and welcome to today's video where we have reached part 3, the final part of my History of SHINee miniseries moment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I like to do this thing on my channel. I've done it for a couple groups now where I basically like to break down their entire history. SHINee got to have multiple parts though because their career is just so long. But yeah, we basically take a group, break down their history. I am inspired to do this by Miss Smoky Glow and her Evolution of series. I will have both the channel and the playlist of the Evolution of linked in the description. I love her content. I highly recommend it if you like commentary stuff. Personally, adore it. Anyway, yeah, as stated, this is part 3. We're going to be doing 2018 to present day. Parts 1 and 2, though, will be in the description. If you haven't seen them, I might recommend watching them just for continuity and context, but you don't have to. Do whatever you want. That's just my little recommendation. Also, little fun fact before we keep going, I'm actually on vacation right now, or at least it will be right now if you watch this in the first week or so. So if I seem a little AWOL at the moment, that is why. So like new albums, Kepler's album, for example, will not be reviewed right when it comes out because, again, vacation. Also, quick little warning before we keep going that I will be mentioning Jonghyun in this video. I don't intend to really bring up his death in detail, but just in case I end up doing it, I want to put a quick little disclaimer here that there may or may not be discussions in this video of suicide and depression. If I do talk about it, I will give you another heads up, but I do want to put that here just in case. One last little note before we get started. I will not be mentioning every single activity SHINee or the members have because, dear God, that would be exhausting. It will be easier during COVID, but like still, I'm not going to talk about all of them because frankly, it doesn't really matter for a lot of them. They're not that important to the storyline of SHINee, so I will be skipping them. Major events will get mentioned and some special stuff might get thrown in, but like, do not expect me to give you a full breakdown of like every variety show appearance, every single concert they've done, like that type of thing. Not gonna happen. All right, now that we have all of that out of the way, let us begin 2018. Our first thing for this year is the release of Jonghyun's second full album, Poet Artist. This album had the lead single Shinin' and was wildly successful. The album was the highest selling solo album of 2018. It has since been certified platinum on the Gaon chart, selling over 250,000 copies. It has spent multiple weeks at #1. It was just a very, very successful release. In February, SHINee would host 4 concerts in Japan, including 2 more shows at the Tokyo Dome. All 4 of these shows would sell out very quickly, with over 180,000 tickets being sold. These shows were to support SHINee's first Japanese compilation album, SHINee: The Best From Now On. This album did very, very well upon its release. It would top the charts. It has since been certified gold in Japan, being just the latest of their albums to be certified gold. Jumping ahead to May, SHINee would announce the release of their upcoming 6th full album in Korea. It would be entitled The Story of Light and would come out in 3 parts entitled The Story of Light Part Blank. Part 1 would be released on May 28th. This part was led with the single Good Evening. I like to think of this song as a more View-esque song. Not quite View, but it's giving View vibes. It also, fun fact, would mark SHINee's 10th single to peak in the top 10 on the Gaon charts. 2 weeks later, part 2 would be released. Trust me when I say this was not a fun month for my wallet because I do have all the parts. But part 2 would be led with the single I Want You. This song, it's more tropical banger vibes, and it is my favorite of the Story of Light singles. If I had to pick a favorite, I would say it's this one. It also would go on to get a perfect score on M Countdown. The third and final-ish kind of part of the album would come out on June 25th. This part would come with the title track Our Page, which was conveniently playing as I wrote the notes for this part of the video, so I think that's God's work. The title track was also written as a tribute to Jonghyun, and the song Lock You Down, which is on part 3, does contain Jonghyun's vocals. In August, SHINee would release their 15th Japanese single, Sunny Side. This single would contain the Japanese versions of Good Evening and I Want You, and was the latest in a long line of Japanese titles by SHINee to get a gold certification in Japan. In September, SHINee would release a repackaged kind of version of their 6th full album entitled The Story of Light Epilogue. It would have all of the songs that are on the first 3 parts, along with a new song, Countless. Then, at the end of September, Taemin would embark on his first full-fledged solo tour. This would be a Japanese tour entitled Serious, and the entire tour would sell out. There would be over 100,000 tickets sold, and then as the tour was wrapping up, he would release his self-titled first full album in Japan. This album would peak at #2 on the charts and sell over 60,000 copies. November would see Key releasing the digital single Forever Yours, which would be a collaboration between him and his very longtime friend, Soyu from Sistar. This song is amazing. I adore it so much. It's so cute, it's so wholesome, it's so fun and bright and happy, and it just warms every part of my soul. Later that month, Key would release his official solo debut album, Face. This album would mark the rare full album to be a solo debut by an SM soloist. I don't know when the last one actually was because I didn't care enough to try and go through the entirety of SM's discography, but it has definitely been a very, very long time, so hooray for Key for that. It would also be led with the single One of Those Nights, which would be featuring Crush. This song is a masterpiece. This album is a masterpiece. If you want to see me rant and rave about it for however long the video is, I will have linked in the description my review for this album because I would literally die for this album. In December, we had yet another SHINee solo debut with Jinky's Voice. This album would be led with the lead single Blue, which is a ballad and is absolutely beautiful. And then pretty much immediately following the album's release, Jinky would enlist, with him enlisting on December 10th and becoming the first SHINee member to have their enlistment. Our final schedule for 2018 is Key's solo debut in Japan with the mini album Hologram. This album would contain 5 songs, and in promotion of the album, Key would host 2 concerts in Japan, making him the second SHINee member to have a solo concert in Japan. Retrospective time, if you're confused, I end every year in a retrospective when I do these videos. I think of it as like a little wrap-up moment. I personally really like doing it, and it's my video so I can do what I want. Either way though, 2018 was admittedly a weird year for the SHINee members. Like, they have talked about how hard of a year it was for them. They didn't even know what they were gonna do, if they were gonna continue as SHINee. There were talks of not even having their Japanese concerts back in February. They did eventually decide to have them, obviously, and would release their 6th full album as sort of, in a lot of ways, their way of being like, hey, we're still here, we're gonna keep going. And personally, I'm really happy about that because I do love SHINee, and I do also have to give a lot of respect for the openness that pretty much all the members, I'm pretty sure, have had when talking about how hard of a year 2018 was for them. Beyond that, though, you can also see the impending SHINee hiatus coming in a lot of ways, since it is enlistment time for all the members pretty much, other than Taemin. But you can see SM starting to realize, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to promote SHINee as a group anymore, so we got to get the solos going. So like, all of SHINee had solo careers at this point, but not really as much in music, especially by the end of 2018. It was really just Taemin at that point, so you can see them immediately pumping out solo debuts. Like, they had 2 solo debuts in 2 months. When I tell you, I had whiplash. I was so jarred. I don't even think they were like 2 weeks apart that the announcements were between Face and Voice. Like, it was back to back. You could tell SM was very much trying to get the solo careers going in the music sphere, at least. And I, again, very happy about it. Face is one of my favorite albums of all time, so I'm definitely not complaining. But I do think that it did feel, in my opinion, I remember at the time personally thinking that it did feel a little bit rushed. Moving on though, 2019 is the start of the SHINee hiatus. SHINee is not going to have a comeback for many years, so get ready for a lot of solo promotions, especially in the beginning of 2019, because it is a busy few months. First, February 2nd, Key would kick off his first Korean solo concert with Keyland. The concert would run until the 10th and would have 8 total shows, and then after the concert, Key would release an SM Station single entitled Cold, which would be a collaboration with rapper Hanhae. Then, on February 11th, Taemin would release his second solo mini album in Korea with Want, which would have a single of the same name. And while I do love this song very, very much, I constantly forget about her. I don't know why. Every time I hear her, I'm like, wow, I should listen to Want more. And then I never listen to Want. I don't know. I'm gonna listen to Want after I film this. That's my pledge. Editing Simon, you better be listening to Want right now, okay? Okay. Meanwhile, around the same time, Minho would become the first SHINee member to go on a fan meet tour. This tour would consist of 5 stops in 4 cities before getting an additional stop in Seoul. And quick little note, Minho is, I'm pretty sure, the only SHINee member to do a fan meet tour. If I had to guess, it's just because he doesn't have enough solo songs, especially at this point. He didn't have literally any. So I think that's just why. He just doesn't have enough songs to do a concert. SM, maybe give him enough songs to do a concert. Just a thought. Either way though, jumping ahead, on March 4th, he would release a repackaged version of his solo debut album. This would be entitled I Wanna Be, which would have a single of the same name, which would be yet another collaboration. Can we acknowledge he is always doing collabs for his titles, at least in this era, and I personally really love it. But either way, the title would feature Soyeon from Giddle. It is an absolute bop. I love it so much. It is a great song. But either way, just the same day as the release of the album, he would also become the second SHINee member to enlist, which would obviously put him on hiatus for the rest of the year. On March 15th, Taemin would host his second solo concert in Korea, which would contain 3 shows, all of which sold out, selling around 15,000 tickets. Then, at the end of March, just before his Seoul fan meet, Minho would be the final SHINee member to get a solo single. He would release the SM Station song I'm Home, and then a couple weeks after the fan meet would enlisting on April 15th, leaving us with just Taemin. Taemin wouldn't do much until June, which is when he kicked off his arena tour in Japan. This tour would be so popular, SM would end up adding dates to the tour just to meet the demand, and while on tour, Taemin would release his next Japanese mini album, Famous. This album would sell over 50,000 copies in just the first week and give Taemin his first #1 on the weekly charts in Japan. It would also have the lead single, Famous, of the same name. I need them to get more original with the album names. It's getting tiresome for me. Either way though, this song, love it. She's fabulous, and if you understood that reference, I love that for all of us. Following his tour and Japanese comeback, Taemin would then go on to join SM's super group, Super M. Not gonna get into my feelings on Super M or their status as a super group. I am not gonna delve into that. That seems too messy even for me. Anyway, the group would debut at the end of October with their self-titled mini album, which would become the first debut album by a K-pop artist to top the Billboard 200 and made them the second ever artist to do that. Then, following an appearance on The Ellen Show, it was before the Ellen exposure, Super M would kick off their first official tour, which would run through November. Then, after finishing his promotions with Super M, Taemin would head back to Japan for one more quick little concert moment in December, and with that, it's retrospective time. So 2019 for SHINee as a group, not that busy, they literally did nothing, but for individuals, my lord, did they have a lot to do. Like, it is very clear SM was full steam ahead on getting the members as much solo work as possible. You had comebacks, you had tours, you had everything going on. It was very much milk everything out of the members until Key and Minho enlisted, and then it was just let's milk everything we possibly can out of Taemin until the end of the year. Moving on though, 2020, 99% Taemin. There are quick mentions for the other members, but like it's very much Taemin focused year. Think of this as the history of Taemin, and in a lot of ways it's really the history of Super M. So, 2020, Taemin would kick off the year by joining back up with Super M to continue their American tour, which is notably where I went to see them. And a little story time moment of me being really dumb. I didn't realize that the tickets came with an album, so my dumb ass bought a copy of Super M's album and then was telling my friend like, oh yeah, I bought like this album, and Super M's album. And she was like, bruh, we're getting copies of Super M's album. We get them with our tickets. And I was like, no. And she was like, yeah. Basically, when you buy tickets for concerts, pay attention to the perks you're getting. It might be useful. Anyway, Super M's tour would run through February and would actually be pretty much completely unaffected by COVID. The only shows they had to cancel were their Tokyo Dome concerts, but the rest of the shows did manage to go through. I don't know if they were going to add more after, but of the announced shows, only the Tokyo Dome ones had to get canceled. However, this concert cancellation did not stop Super M at all. They would be the first artists to take part in SM's Beyond Live concert series thing, which, if you don't know, is what is basically a seemingly endless run of online concerts at this point. Not just for SM artists, although it did start that way. They would then branch out to JYP artists, Starship artists, just a bunch of different artists. Personally, I don't know why you'd ever pay for an online concert. You can find stages for free online on YouTube to your heart's content. You will not run out. But I am clearly in the minority because this concert would sell 75,000 tickets, making over $2 million. Quick little note, in July, Jinky would get discharged from his military service. He would proceed to do nothing all year for reasons that baffle me. Back to Taemin, he would take a break until August, which is when he would kick off his Never Gonna Dance Again series with the digital single 2 Kids, which is beautiful. I love this song so much, you don't even know. Like, it brings a smile to my face. I love it. Taemin was not the only one to release a digital single, though, as Super M would release their own entitled 100, then go on Good Morning America to promote the song, and then release another digital single entitled Tiger Inside. Jumping back to Taemin's solo career, he would release Act 1, aka Part 1, of his third full album, Never Gonna Dance Again. This part would contain 9 songs, which included the pre-released 2 Kids and the title track Criminal, which my favorite Taemin title track to date. Again, my opinion, you can have yours, but if you ask me, this song is nothing short of perfection. It is dark, it's giving everything. I love it so much. Pretty much as soon as promotions were done for Taemin's album, Super M would release their first full album, Super 1. This would have the title track 1 parentheses Monster and Infinity. It's a Sherlock moment, which is a mix of 2 songs, and I will say it doesn't do what Sherlock does, and leave it at that. Quick mention, in September, Key gets discharged from his military service, and would then in November join the cast of the variety show Amazing Saturday Do-Re-Mi Market. Also in November, Minho would get discharged. He, like Jinky, does nothing for the rest of the year. Also in November, having finished his promotions with Super M, Taemin would release Act 2 of Never Gonna Dance Again. This would have the title track Idea, which notably has vocals from the K-pop icon that is Boa. While this song is personally my least favorite Taemin title, it did do well and would get Taemin his first win on Inkigayo. December's a pretty chill month. The only thing that happens is that Taemin would release the extended edition of Never Gonna Dance Again. It has exactly 0 new songs, which bothers me. It really is just Act 1 and Act 2 in a single package. I also hate this album, not just for being a cash grab, but for ruining the SHINee solo album size. If you don't know, watch my video about album packaging that I hate. I loved the sizing for the OG SHINee solo albums. This was the first one not to be that size, and for that it is dead to me. Alright, it's retrospective time, and I don't really have a ton to say beyond the fact that Taemin needs a vacation. Taemin had at this point debuted 12 years earlier, and in spite of being very rich at this point, decided to go from nothing to everything in rapid succession. Like, if you've seen my other history ofs, you'll know I have thoughts on how various people handled the COVID pandemic and just how they could promote during it. Taemin took a very unique approach, which was, I'm gonna do everything all at once. Like, in the span of a handful of months, there were like 30 songs released that Taemin was on. I understand they are pre-recorded. That does not make it less ridiculous that he had to do that in such rapid succession. Into 2021 we go. The year would actually begin with Taemin taking part in the SM Town New Year's concert thing. It was basically their middle finger to Big Hit, being like, you charged for your concert, we're gonna do ours for free. Why were they petty? Lord only knows. I am not an SM executive. I don't really care about the tea. But either way, that's what happened. The concert is notable because A, as stated, Taemin was there, but also as it ended, they would tease an upcoming SHINee comeback. Why didn't SHINee perform at the concert since they were all there, you might be wondering? Again, I'm not an SM executive. I don't make the decisions. If it was up to me, I don't know why they didn't perform. That's basically my answer. I don't know. They should have. This teased comeback would then be released in February when SHINee released this giant bitch right here, their 7th full album, Don't Call Me. Let's start with the song this time because I want to, and I want to have some discussions with you. This is, my opinion, SHINee's worst title track in easily the past 10 years, if not longer, if not ever. Like, I do not like this song at all. Minho said that it was basically SHINee's way of, I don't want to say conforming to popular music, but like, he said, I will read you verbatim from my notes, fitting today's genre and musical mood. I would call that conforming. Either way, it was just them emulating the annoying sound of boy groups that I personally cannot stand. Also, it was arranged by Ryan Jun, and if you don't know, I have a one-sided vendetta against this man for the simple reason of his inconsistency. He has created some of my all-time favorite songs and some of my all-time least favorite songs, and I need him to get it together and just pick a side because I need to know if I should either be excited or horrified when I hear that he is producing someone's title track. Instead, I am just stuck sitting and waiting for it to come out because I don't know. This man bothers me. Maybe I'll make a video about it one day, but as of right now, I'm just gonna say the man's inconsistency is one of my biggest pet peeves. My feelings on the song aside though, this comeback was wildly successful. Like SHINee's biggest comeback since 2015 levels of successful. Their last song to do this well was View. So let's run through what Don't Call Me did. It peaked at number 3 on the Gaon charts, making it their highest charting song since View, their first top 10 since Good Evening, and their first top 5 since Tell Me What to Do. It would also pick up 6 total music show wins, making it their most awarded song since View. The song would also pick up over 60 million views on YouTube, making it SHINee's fourth most viewed music video behind Ring Ding Dong, Lucifer, and Hello, meaning it actually beat out View in terms of YouTube views. The album itself, also wildly successful, it would peak at #1 on the Gaon charts, making it SHINee's 14th #1 album, tying BTS for the second most #1 albums on the charts at the time. It would go on to sell over 300,000 copies, making it SHINee's highest selling album of all time, and would be their first and to date only album to be certified platinum on the Gaon charts. Then, following Don't Call Me promotions, SHINee would host their first solo concert in over 3 years. This would be another online concert, obviously. It would be part of SM's Beyond Live series thing. It would take place at the beginning of April and would have recorded over 130,000 viewers. Following SHINee's concert, Don't Call Me, like oh so many SM albums to come before it, would go on to get a repackage entitled Atlantis with a title track of the same name. This comeback, it did not do as well as Don't Call Me. It didn't even come close, but it still did quite well. The title track Atlantis would peak at #11 on the Gaon charts, and the album would sell just under 150,000 copies. In May, Taemin would host an online solo concert of his own, and then a few weeks later would release his third solo mini album in Korea, Advice. Can you see why I hate the sizing thing now? It bothers me. It's irrelevant. I know you don't care. I just want to complain. Moving past my complaints, this album and the title track would be released on May 18th. This album also contained a duet with Girls' Generation member Taeyeon, making Taemin the second SHINee member to have a duet with her. Next, SHINee would host an online fan meet to celebrate their 10th debut anniversary in Japan. During this fan meet, they would perform a new Japanese song called Superstar, which would be released digitally the next day. Quick mention, Taemin enlists in May. He is therefore on hiatus. He has yet to be discharged. Okay, cool. Back to SHINee, they would release their first Japanese mini album, Superstar. Yes, like the song. This album would come out digitally at the end of June, followed by a physical release in July. This release would do very well, giving SHINee their fourth #1 song on the weekly charts in Japan and getting a gold certification. On August 30th, Key would release his first solo single since his military enlistment. The song, a digital single entitled Hate That, would be another collaboration, this time with Taeyeon, making him the third SHINee member to collaborate with her. The song, Hate That, an R&B masterpiece. I love this song so much. I easily heard it 20-something times within the first 24 hours of it coming out. I was obsessed. I highly recommend it if you like more chill R&B sounds from SHINee. Fast forwarding a few weeks, Key would host an online solo concert entitled Grox in Keyland at the end of September, and then the next day would release his first solo Korean mini album. This album, Bad Love, would include the title track of the same name, which would get Key his first #1 song on the Gaon download charts and his first music show win with a win on Music Core. Closing out the year, in December, Minna would host another solo fan meet, and that very same day would release another solo single entitled Heartbreak. Retrospective time, 2021 was a very busy year for SHINee in general, but really I would just say it was more of a return to status quo than anything else. They would just be back to doing solo promotions along with group promotions. The only thing I would say that is of note is the seeming rise in popularity for SHINee. Their comeback this year was their biggest in so long. I wouldn't say they're most popular now. It's definitely not what they were at their peak, but it is definitely a lot more popularity than they had been seeing in the last few years. And frankly, I'm thrilled about it because more people should stand SHINee. We've reached the present year of 2022. SHINee is obviously still on hiatus with Taemin in the military, so we only really have solo promotions to get through, but there are some things to talk about, so let's get into them. Okay. I could not find anything for the first several months of 2022, so we're just going to jump ahead to April when Jinky would release his second solo mini album, Dice. This album was much more popular than his first. It is also a more poppy album in general, so that does make sense. Either way though, the title track Dice would debut atop the Gaon download charts, giving Jinky his first #1 song there. The album would also sell over 100,000 copies, being his first album to break that milestone, so hooray for Jinky. On May 18th, Jinky would then become the latest SHINee member to have a solo debut in Japan, releasing a digital single as a pre-release for an upcoming Japanese debut album. That same month, Minna would also venture over to Japan to host some fan meets. During these fan meets, he would notably perform 2 brand new songs that as of right now, from what I have been able to find, have not actually been released. So I have a conspiracy theory ready. I am filming this on June 11th. It is currently 8:42 p.m. That's why it's getting dark. I know, I've been filming for a while. But conspiracy theory, Minho solo debut in 2022. Hear me out. He has 4 songs now. 2 of them haven't even been released digitally. I don't know why SM wouldn't release them digitally unless they're going to be part of an upcoming album. So that's my vision, Minho solo debut. If it gets announced in the near future between me filming and releasing this video, know that I'm a visionary, okay? Okay. Moving on, we have now reached June, aka the current month for me, and Pride Month, so happy Pride! Starting off the month, Jinky would release a solo album in Japan entitled Who Sings Volume 1. This album would be a digital release, meaning it did not have any physical sales. Looking to the future, in July, Jinky is scheduled to also release a studio album in Japan. This album will mark his first full album in general and also just his first Japanese full album. Then, following its release, he is also scheduled to go on his first Japanese tour, which will also mark his first tour. It is now, that's it. Like, we've reached all the promotions that I really wanted to talk about. So we're going to do a little half-year retrospective, let's say. 2022, up until this point, clearly is geared towards solo promotions, specifically in Japan. You have Minho doing a fan meet there. You have Jinky doing a bunch of stuff there. Also, while Key has not announced anything in Japan as of me filming this, I would not be surprised if he either has another Japanese comeback or a Japanese tour or something along those lines. It's just, you can see that Taemin's in the military, so they're not going to get a SHINee comeback. It's basically the reverse of, instead of having Taemin doing everything, they're just spreading it out a little bit more, which I don't mind. I appreciate the lack of overworking. Plus, I stand by my conspiracy theory, Minho solo album 2022. If it happens, I'm a prophet. I don't know what else to tell you. Either way, though, with that, I can now say that is the history of SHINee. I am going to be doing a little follow-up moment, which is going to be once I'm back from vacation, which is just going to have everything that I missed. It's not going to be like a full-fledged thing, though. It's going to be like probably 5 or so minutes, which is not that bad considering the hour plus that this whole series is. So like, by comparison, that's basically nothing. Either way, though, if you did like this video, please like and subscribe, or don't. I'll literally be fine either way. Like, it does not affect me if you like or don't like, or subscribe or don't. Like, I'll be fine either way. Yeah. You can also follow me on Twitter, though, at s_albumreviews. I will have that in the description, along with parts 1 and 2, Smokey Glow's channel, a bunch of SHINee reviews that I've done just in the time I've had a channel. So you can check all those out if you so choose. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!